right, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about design, and in particular sort of the ideas of graphic design and how to organize the visual layout of perhaps brochures or slide deck presentations, right? And this is a component that will help you in terms of your overall communication, because the structure of your presentation helps to create the impression that you're well organized, as well as that the information that you are presenting is accurate. So when we're taking a look at visually presenting information or concepts or such in a visual form, we're going to be using the acronym C.R.A.P. I know it doesn't sound good, but it works really well in terms of being able to think about and remember how to organize our visual information. Okay, so I like to say if your work doesn't look like crap, you haven't done a good job, right? In this case, C.R.A.P means contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And we're going to delve into each of these different concepts individually so that you have an idea of how to implement them in your own work. Okay, so first, we're going to take a look at the idea of contrast. So this particular graphic comes from an Apple advertising campaign from the early 2000s when the iPod technologies were just emerging. Okay, so we have this idea of contrast. Contrast essentially just means the opposite. So we have contrast of size, right? The big versus small. We have contrast of shape, geometric versus organic, or color, light versus dark, bright versus dull, right? We can even get into other aspects of color theory, such as contrast of yellow to purple, green to red, orange to blue, right? We have complementary colors as well that can contrast each other. Textures, contrast. So we notice that we have contrast as a way of describing essentially the elements of design and how they are used within the composition. So in this case, contrast helps to create visual interest because we have this really simplified color palette. We have black, white, and green, and they are very stark against each other, and it's that starkness that makes the image kind of pop and come to life. Okay? So contrast helps to create a little bit more emphasis in your work so that there are visual elements that will dominate within the visual organization that you are trying to create. The second strategy is the idea of repetition, right? So repetition is when things happen over and over and over and over. No, you get the idea. Things happen over and over again, right? And we can use various elements as well in order to help us kind of figure out how we're going to do this. So we could repeat different types of lines or the size of a particular shape, right? If we're taking a look at this image here, right, we have the shape of the cow that is repeating. We have the color of the cow, which is repeating, right? And we also have a contrast, going back to the last slide, of kind of textures, as these cows are kind of silhouetted and almost mirror the type of cow that we see up on the screen here as well. Okay, so when we repeat an element, it basically tells us, hey, this is something that's kind of important and we want to be paying attention to it. When it comes to graphic design, we also need to be thinking about alignment, right? We want to make sure that our alignments are crisp and clean. And this is what really helps to create a stronger sense of visual organization in the work, right? So if we take a look at sort of your basic word processor, you'll be hopefully familiar with these types of symbols, right? So we can basically line things up on the left, we can line things up through the center, or we can line things up on the right, right? So these are called our horizontal alignments, right? And we also have our vertical alignments, right? We can align things from the top, again from the middle, or we can align things from the bottom. And by picking structures to align the visual elements within the work, right? That organization says, hey, I know that this information is accurate, it's important, it's valuable, as opposed to it just being haphazardly placed within the frame of the image or slide deck that you are creating. Right, the last thing that we want to be thinking about is the idea of proximity, right? And how are we going to organize our visual elements to create a sense of order and a sense of let's say, visual hierarchy as well, right? So we can, if things are just randomly placed, it's kind of hard to figure out where are we supposed to look first, what's coming next, and sort of creating that overall visual flow within the composition. But when we are making sure that the proximity is consistent, right, we can kind of get a sense of, you know what, first I need to look here, then I need to look here, then I need to look here, because there is a spatial relationship that we are creating between the various elements, right? So we could expand that proximity, but having that structure is also going to be important as well. Okay. In our overall designs, right, we want to be thinking about these 4 principles, especially as it relates to different text that we are going to include as well. So text features that we need to consider include the title, the headings, subheadings, the body copy, which is all of the individual text through here, the style of the photographs, the illustrations, the diagrams, and how we are going about captioning as well. So if we take a look at our four design strategies, right? Think about how each of them can be applied to this particular page layout. We have our contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. See if you can take a moment and identify how each of them are used in this particular layout. I'd recommend that you pause the video here and take some time to do some careful looking. Okay, so I hope that you've had some time to take a look at this. So I'm just going to go through and kind of do a little bit of review here. Okay, so contrast. We have a contrast of size, right? Because we have the large header or title, and then the smaller copy of the text here, right? Really, really, really important, right? It's very, very simple. We also have contrast of image sizes. We have large, we have 2 mediums, and we have 1 small. And that, again, that variety helps to create a little bit of a visual flow as I look down, come across, and sweep back through. And it's creating almost like a circular path for me to be looking through the image. Right? Repetition, right? So I'm repeating the angle that these lines are on, right? As opposed to having each of these images in different shapes, right? By simply repeating that angle, right, it's creating a sense of visual structure. Alignment, okay? Here, right, we have line across the side, and there is a purposeful but consistent repetitive breaking of alignment with how the captions are created here, here, and here, okay? But alignment is consistent here and across the top, across the sides of each of the text columns as well, right? And these lines are basically working parallel to each other in order to create a stronger sense of unity. Right? And lastly, we have proximity, right? And proximity is really about the space between the visual elements, right? The space between the photo and this set of text here is consistent, and the set is consistent from here to here as well. Okay? So we want to make sure that the proximity is repeating as well and creates that sense of visual structure. Okay? So just in review, we have our 4 main, I'm going to call them the graphic design principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. I hope this helped in giving you some ideas of how to structure and organize your various presentations. And if you have any questions, please make sure that you're asking. Have a great day. See you soon. Goodbye.